Hell, he's gone and ticked all the boxes. Asian Games, Commonwealth, Olympics, and of course the World Athletics Championship. Olympics and World Athletics Championship, pinnacle for every athlete to win, and he has done that in style. His personal best of 88.17 meter throw that secures gold for Bharat, but also tells the world the rise of India in track and field, in sports, in various disciplines continues. And this is the reason why, because he believes that there is no finish line in javelin. 90 kya 90 se aage bhi phekunga. That's his thought process, and we welcome that. Also, we welcome that there are, out of the top 6, 3 are Indian javelin throwers. When have we seen that? No more tokenism, no more token participation. We are there to get up into the podium. And that was seen even in the men's relay as they set an Asian record. They finished 5th in the World Cup final, rubbing shoulders with the likes of US and Trinidad. Legends in the 100 meter and in the relay as far as running is concerned. In these short distances, fast distances, we clocked a time of 2 minutes 59.92 in the final, broke the Asian record in the qualifiers. So proud of these boys. Also, there's a reason to celebrate. Again, and never before has happened. Miss World, Karolina Belaweska of Poland, is in Jammu and Kashmir along with winners of other pageants, including Miss World India, Sini Shetty. And this ahead of the Miss World pageant returning to India after nearly 30 years. Back in 1996 was when the last pageant was done in India. This time around, later this year, we will have the Miss World pageant in India. But they are all in Jammu and Kashmir enjoying it. G20 summit in Srinagar, and see, the world is now flocking to Jammu and Kashmir. And there are people who are trying to unnecessarily create multiple perceptions. The reality is there for all to see. Also, closer home, and of course, we are part of this family, that is the Reliance family. Their consolidated revenue have been announced at the 46th AGM by Chairman Mukesh Ambani, who is going to continue as the chair of the board of directors for another 5 years. And he said that the Reliance Group has made a revenue of 9,74,864 crore. RIL has posted 73,670 crore in net profit and added 2.6 lakh new jobs to the market. Jio Air Fiber launch is scheduled for the 19th of September. 450 million Jio subscribers. So Reliance is ruling the roost, just like one of its subsidiaries, Network 18, is ruling the roost digital and on television across platforms. And we've got you to thank for it. So we are quite over the moon, but let's now quickly get you up to speed on what's happening on the moon.
0.
लैंडर मॉड्यूल पूरी तरह से सेफली और सॉफ्टली चंद्रमा की सतह पे लैंड हो चुका है। जी हाँ, आप अपने स्क्रीन पे देख सकते हैं लैंडर मॉड्यूल
Well, the Pragyan Rover is up and about. It's got 10 more days, 14 Earth days, 1 lunar day. The Pragyan Rover has been safely rerouted after coming to face with a 4-meter crater on the moon's surface. ISRO's just posted these details, and we've been watching like a hawk in terms of the details coming through. ISRO has said that the rover had spotted a crater a safe 3 meters from the actual edge of this crater and had been directed to a safer path. Now, ISRO has actually got 3 main objectives. Now, have a look at these tweets, ladies and gentlemen. The crater on the Chandrayaan 3 rover encountered on 27th August 2023, as seen by the navigation camera. Now, you see from a distance, it's actually seen this crater. It's a 4-meter crater. It's spotted it just about 3 meters away from the distance. And then what has it done? It's re-navigated, recalculated, and figured out the distance further away, safe away from this crater. The path retraced by the Chandrayaan 3 rover on 27th August 2023 as viewed by the navigation camera on the onboard rover. So have a look at this. So this is what this intelligent piece of machinery that's been built by our scientists is able to do. It's able to look at a crater from a distance, avoid, recalibrate, and then work out another path. Now, ISRO has three main objectives: soft landing on the lunar surface, movement of the Pragyan rover, obtaining data from the rover. While two of the objectives have been successfully completed, all eyes are on the third mission. The third objective, that while it is obtaining crucial data from the lunar surface, the secrets of the moon's south pole, that side which has been safeguarded from the vagaries of the elements and of course the sun, and it's behind. So millions of years ago, how was the Earth's surface? Can we get that data? How different it is? Now, 10 days are remaining for the completion of one lunar day. That means after which the rover will cease to function because of the drastic shift in temperature. It will become minus 250 degrees and all sensors will freeze, and thereafter to restart it will be quite literally impossible when the next lunar day comes. But let's try and understand and bring you up to speed about what all the lunar mission and the Pragyan rover has been able to achieve so far. One, it successfully traveled 12 meters on the entire lunar surface. It's demonstrated proficient mobility by traversing on the terrain of the lunar south pole. भाई खड्डा दिख रहा है, खड्डे से बच के आगे निकल गया 4 meters. That's what it's been able to do on its own on the moon's surface. Far away, 384,000 kilometers away, it's been able to do it. It surmounted its first lunar obstacle, a 100-millimeter deep crater. It was able to navigate away, successfully conducted drilling operations into the lunar surface, and on the the subsurface experimentation, it showcased its capacity. We told you it's equipped with those kind of scoops and to be able to drill and pull out soil and sample. Now, in a first, the Pragyan rover has actually sent data showing the temperature profile of the lunar surface at various depths at the south pole of the moon. It's also displayed its effective reception of ground commands and corresponding actions through its semi-autonomous control system. And the payload has recorded temperature fluctuations of both the lunar surface and the immediate subsurface at varying depths. So the crust and the mantle, the subsurface, it's been able to see and measure, and that's because it's landed somewhere in that Atkins basin. Now, CHASTE, or CHASTE, the Chandra Surface Thermophysical Experiment. This is what measures the temperature profile of the lunar topsoil around the pole, and to understand the thermal behavior of the moon's surface. So what is it saying? That the temperature that it's recording at various depths, it's showing that there are huge fluctuations which are happening. It has a temperature probe equipped with a controlled penetration mechanism capable of reaching a depth of 10 centimeters beneath the surface, and then the probe is actually fitted with 10 individual temperature sensors. So the presented graph illustrates the temperature variations of the lunar surface near the surface and at depths as recorded during the probe's penetration. This is the first such profile of the lunar south pole. Detailed observations are currently underway. Let's try and understand the data. Minus 10 degrees in the subsurface, and on the surface, look at this, it's nearly 58 degrees. And that's the difference just between the topsoil and the subsurface. That's how much it becomes suddenly cold. And if that's the case, what all is preserved in the mantle and the core is a big question that scientists want the answer to. Humanity wants the answers to. And also those keen on the space race, looking at alternative mineral resources and of course sources of fuel for the future. In terms of space travel, they are all looking at these answers. The rover has found temperature fluctuations of both the lunar surface and the immediate subsurface at varying depths. ISRO believed that the temperature could be somewhere around 20 degrees centigrade to 30 degrees centigrade on the surface, but it is 70 degrees centigrade, and this was higher than what they had expected. See? And these variables are now being negotiated and understood. Amazing gyan or amazing knowledge for the future. No wonder it's called Pragyan. Now, we'll aid in also understanding the processes that shaped the moon's terrain over millions of years. Now, it will actually now better the current understanding of how the planets were actually formed. This moon, as a satellite, broke away from the Earth, and a huge chunk of it. And what did it take away? What was the composition of the Earth's crust, mantle and core billions of years ago? Those are the questions that we can find the answers to. Extremely cold temperatures could mean that anything trapped in the region would remain frozen in time without undergoing much change. The rocks and the soil in the moon's north and south poles could therefore provide clues to early solar system. It paves the way for future crewed missions to the moon. And now let's try and tell you what else are the other planned objectives of the Pragyan Rover. First up is study the water ice reserves. Can we convert this into hydrogen fuel? Analyze mineral composition on the lunar surface. So not rare earth minerals, but rare lunar minerals. Possible to try and mine and bring back. Chemical composition analysis. The rover will analyze elements like magnesium, aluminium, iron, silicon, potassium, titanium, calcium and others on the lunar surface. Is there another element that is not found on Earth but perhaps is on the moon? We should know in the days ahead. They will also examine the electron and study the moon's surface and their temporal changes. It will measure the lunar quakes near the landing site, shedding light on the moon's crust and mantle composition. And even as the rover gives us insights on the moon, ISRO is ready with its next mission, Aditya L1, and that's happening this Saturday, this weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Aim for the sun, ISRO does with Aditya L1 launch on the 2nd of September. Mission to be launched, 400 kilogram spacecraft that will actually study the sun. The satellite conceived as a 400 kilogram class satellite with 7 payloads. Aditya L1 will be inserted in a halo orbit around the Lagrangian point 1. That's where it will be inserted, located about 1.5 million kilometers from the Earth. The orbit is located. The satellite will perform additional experiments and will also observe the sun's photosphere and the chromosphere. It will study magnetic field topology and magnetic field measurements in the solar corona. We are growing by leaps and bounds. Right at the second time, ladies and gentlemen, that Chandrayaan soft landing is going to take India's space technology to a whole new dimension, and nations are wanting to partner with us. Let's try and ask the person who's in the thick of all this action as we come to the culmination of India's year as the G20 chair, with the big G20 summit planned in the national capital on the 9th and 10th of September. Joining us now is the G20 Sherpa, who's advising Prime Minister Narendra Modi and championing India's cause right there, and he'll get into the thick of all these negotiations very, very soon. Amitabh Kant is with us. Amitabh Kantji, namaste, Jai Hind, thank you very, very much. We are all awaiting and looking forward to the 9th and 10th. How prepared are we?
Yeah, it is. When we took over the presidency, the Prime Minister had given us the task to be inclusive, to be decisive, to be very ambitious and to be action-oriented. Now, our presidency has been very, very different from other countries who do it in one city or two cities. The Prime Minister wanted us to do it in every state of India. So we went to every state. We've done the presidency in over 60 cities of India. And we've made it a people's presidency as he had desired. That is, the citizens of India have participated in this. Every school, a student, college student, they've all participated. The people of the states have participated. Everybody's, for the first time, foreign policy and diplomacy was taken to the citizens of India.
Well, but taking it to 60 cities, the Bharat Mandapam, this entire grand showcase announcing India, has it helped change perception of some of the G20 nations? And is it going to help India's cause?
So first of all, let me say that we've been able to project India's and the states' soft power in a very big way. Secondly, I think everybody has realized that India has put the developmental agenda in front. That is, we've been the voice of the global south. The first meeting Prime Minister did was to hold a meeting with 125 global leaders and be the voice of the global south. So our presidency has throughout focused on the developing countries of the world. And it's important because this year, 80% of the global growth is coming from developing countries. Next 2 decades, 2/3 of the growth will come from developing countries. And therefore, we brought their agenda right in the forefront. Thirdly, Prime Minister's belief on women-led development has been very critical to us. And actually, throughout the year, we've discussed very strongly on women empowerment and bridging the gender digital divide. And fourthly, all through, you would see in our discussions, our focus has been on developmental issues. Other issues of war, etc., we've kept in the background. But ambition, we've taken it right up front. Our approach has been a human-centric approach. Our approach has been, as the Prime Minister wanted, a completely inclusive approach, and our approach has been developmental in nature.
Well, you talked about the global south. We also spoke about these numbers that the next 2 decades of development will come from the developing nations. India has made a strong pitch for first right of resources over resources for developing nations. How has this been met with by the largely developed nations who have so far dictated terms at G20?
So for the first time, Anand, the Prime Minister wrote to all the leaders that African Union must become a permanent member of G20. And that means that when you give a permanent seat to the African Union, you're actually talking about 55 countries of Africa getting a voice. And therefore, this proposal of the Prime Minister has been very widely, very widely been supported by the leaders. And we are very hopeful that in the subsequent discussions of the leaders, it will find a place and we'll be very successful in giving Africa a leading voice. And therefore, there has been no other presidency more inclusive than India's presidency. Secondly, if growth is going to come from these countries, they need a larger resource base. And that means resources must flow in from multilateral financial institutions. These institutions were made in the post-World War II Bretton Woods period. They are not designed for climate action. They are not designed for sustainable development goals. And therefore, there's been a huge focus on reform, redesign of these institutions, which has been a course of discussion throughout. And I must say that the COVID has impacted citizens of the world. Vast section of population has gone below poverty line. Large number of people have lost their jobs. So our focus has been on improving learning outcomes, health outcomes. One Health of the Prime Minister finds has been a very major focus of discussion. And some of these issues have actually made our presidency very, very human-centric in nature.
Well, 27 nations of the EU. Now, if you're saying that if 55 African nations of the Africa nations under the African Union will be added, G20 then becomes nearly about 90 plus nations, 91 or 92 nations, Amitabh ji. How has India's pitch for humanity, for developmental issues been met with? Because it all boils down to the final communique. And in Bali, paragraphs 3 and 4 were very hotly contested with the mention of war, because the perception of war for one is the perception for the other is just military activity, controlled military activity. How good are we going to be able to champion a communique that will be acceptable to all?
Yeah, but Anand, we are not responsible for the war. No developing countries involved in the war. So it's an important issue, but it's restricted to Europe. Our objective in developing countries and our objective during our presidency has been, let us push for ambition in all developmental issues. Once we've achieved success in all these developmental issues, we will come to that geopolitical issue as well. And we are quite hopeful that we'll be able to convince everybody around that it's important to arrive at a consensus on that as well. But at this stage, we are pushing all the developmental issues, but we are very hopeful that we will get an overall consensus.
Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, one world, one family, one future is the motto under India in this year of G20. But China has raised objections to Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, saying it's from Sanskrit. Is that the reason why, or does China believe that it's not one world, one family, one future? Amitabh ji.
So Anand, let me tell you that I must say that bilaterally we have issues with China, but multilaterally they are a player. They are a player on multilateral forums. They have their views, they express it, they argue with it. Every word is contested. Our discussions start at 2 in the afternoon, they go on till 2 in the night. And every word is debated and discussed But I can assure you that as far as Indian issues are concerned, we will fight, we will fully argue, and we will ensure that all India's interests are taken full care of.
And that rests on your shoulder, because you'll get into the Sherpa level negotiations ahead of the summer leadership summit. How easy or tough is that going to be, Amitabh ji?
No, every issue is a tough issue. Every para is a tough issue. Every word is a tough issue, because you are negotiating with 20 countries plus 9 invited countries. So when you discuss within 2 countries, it's easy. But this is a consensus document. Every country has a veto. That is the challenge. So, there are different countries at different stages of development. There are national circumstances, and the Prime Minister, who's the leader, wants us to be inclusive and ambitious and decisive. So all these issues are important for us. We would like to live up to our Prime Minister's expectation, and we would also like to build a consensus, which is very critical for us.
Well, some of the key takeaways, does resolution of issues ahead of the 13th Ministerial Conference of the WTO become an important factor? COP28 is around the corner. We have the global summit coming through. What will be the core focus, Amitabh ji?
Yeah, I think what India will do, India's presidency, to my mind, will do is I'm very hopeful that it'll be very path-breaking, it will be very, very ambitious, and it will really set the trend for many other events which will be held subsequently, whether it's COP, whether it's the Global Summit of the Future, whether it's the SDG Summit of the United Nations. We've done a lot of work on sustainable development goals, work which had never been done in the past 5 to 6 years. We've done that hard work. We've done a lot of work on the Prime Minister's vision of lifestyle for sustainability. We've done a lot of work on digital public infrastructure, because we believe these are important issues. It's important to transform the world using digital public infrastructure. We've evangelized this throughout the year, and we will take this forward. We'll take lifestyle for sustainability forward. We'll take women-led development forward. All these are critical issues.
Right.
And they will really redefine the world through the eyes of India's leadership.
But, taking it to 60 cities, more than 211, 214 meetings, if I remember correctly, the Bharat Mandapam, Chandrayaan, successful soft landing. Has this changed the perception of Bharat from a nation that's demanding a seat at the table to a nation that deserves the seat at the table?
So there are several things which India has done. Becoming the 5th largest economy, and will subsequently become the 3rd largest economy in the world. The number of houses that we have made, the piped water connection that we've given, the 55,000 kilometers of roads, the fact that we've done Swachh Bharat and provided 110 million toilets, the fact that we do 11x more digital payment than USA and Europe, that we do 4x more than China in real-time fast payments. All this is very critical. But I think in the run-up to the G20, the fact that we've done G20 presidency throughout the year in a highly professional manner, the fact that we've created the Bharat Mandapam, but the fact that we have brought in a totally ambitious developmental agenda of the world from the eyes of the developing nations, that is, to my mind, very big. And on top of all this, the fact that the Chandrayaan has landed on the moon is a huge, huge achievement, which raises the eyes of India in front of the entire world. And therefore, all these factors combined really bring the political and the development narrative of India at a very high pedestal.
But are nations wanting to include space technology, space collaboration as part of the conversation in the leadership summit, given Chandrayaan and the success that we've had?
Yeah, so that we had a space leaders group which has discussed space economy. All the space leaders had come for discussion, which was hosted by the ISRO chairman. There's been very fruitful, constructive discussions, which we'll take it forward.
Final question, Amitabh ji, for you personally, the days ahead are going to be tough negotiations. What would you like to achieve or look back and say, ye kar liya on the 11th and 12th of September?
So, no sleepless night. I sleep very well, very comfortably. But, since our leader, Prime Minister, has set a very ambitious target for us, we have to work hard to achieve it, and we'll continue to work hard to achieve it.
Amitabh Kanji, thank you very much. All the very, very best, and commendations on your book. It's a fantastic read and should be read more. Thank you very, very much for speaking with us here at CNN News 18. Ladies and gentlemen, staying in the G20 space, one important aspect. The G20 culture ministers meet in Varanasi culminated with a call to culture as a tool to tackle challenges and drive sustainable development. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, while addressing the event, expressed confidence that efforts made by the G20 Culture Working Group will foster sustainable practices and lifestyles, furthering India's dual goal of development and heritage. Vikas bhi, virasat bhi. But why did the government choose Varanasi as the location for the summit? Well, India's choice of Varanasi to host the meeting was also deliberate, as the city is not just a treasure chest of knowledge, but the cultural and spiritual capital of Bharat. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has relied heavily on sustainability, and that is the core of India's civilizational heritage. He, at the most of the global forums, has highlighted that environment and economy are two sides of the same coin, and India has emerged as a major champion of sustainable development. From signing the Paris Accords to setting targets of reducing emissions by 2030, India is setting examples for other G20 nations to follow. Here's how. India stands as the world's third largest producer of renewable energy, with 42% of our installed capacity sourced from clean and sustainable options. And we've done it in record time, ladies and gentlemen. We actually want to become nearly 70 to 80% green by 2050. Very ambitious goals. The government's push for green hydrogen through the National Green Hydrogen Policy exemplifies the resolve to promote low-emission fuels. Increasing investments in renewing energy, record $14.5 billion investment in financial year 2021-2022. And of course, this entire aspect of Panchamrit, a five-fold strategy to fight climate change. Green growth outlay of rupees 35,000 crore for energy transformation and net zero emissions. Budget financial year 2023-2024. And also the RBI emerging as a sustainability champion, becoming a member of the network for greening of the financial system itself, and issuing vital frameworks and guidelines. India's first sovereign green bonds framework in 2022. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has consistently highlighted environmental stewardship, showcasing the age-old Indian form of environmentalism. And of course, Prime Minister Narendra Modi adopted Varanasi as the constituency and pushed for sustainable development. Projects like the Namami Gange to clean the holy river and also sprucing up the ghats. The government even launched schemes like Adopt a Heritage and invited private players to maintain historic sites. From Kashi to Kashmir under the Modi government, several shrines have been redeveloped. Have a look at some of them. The Kashi Vishwanath corridor, redevelopment of the temple and the ghat has taken place. The Kalika Mata Mandir complex has been redeveloped and huge amounts of refurbishment has happened. Mahakal corridor, the Mahakal temple has been redeveloped. Kedarnath shrine, the entire temple complex has been restored post the floods. Ayodhya, Ram Mandir, the new Mandir is currently under construction, and the Pran Pratishtha first level completion should happen sometime soon after Sankranti, ahead of Republic Day. And under the NDA government, India has also tapped into thousands of years of cultural heritage as fuel for soft power for a rising stature in the world. Prime Minister via culture has also pushed sustainable crafts. Indigenous local craft has been the cornerstone of India's diplomatic exchanges with world leaders. Now here's how Prime Minister promotes crafts in India. Joe Biden, the US President, was presented with a sandalwood box with the Dasadanyam or the 10 grains. Then Joko Widodo, Indonesia's President, was sprayed with lacquerware from Ram Darbar as the art piece, and it was all made out of lacquerware. And then Mario Draghi, Italy's Prime Minister, he got a marble inlay work tabletop. This was the gift that was given to him, and this comes from Agra. Alberto Fernandez, Argentina's president, was given Dokra art piece from Nandi, called Nandi, from Chhattisgarh. So every state, every region being represented. At the BRICS summit, Cyril Ramaphosa, the South Africa president, was given the Bidri work, pair of surahis from Bidri in Karnataka, and that's where it is so famous. Chepo Motsepe, First Lady of SA, South Africa, that she also got a Naga shawl from, and Lula da Silva, Brazil president, got a Gond painting from Madhya Pradesh. And what Prime Minister Narendra Modi has done is, by leveraging the power of culture, India has urged G20 nations to create sustainable strategies that are not only effective but also culturally sensitive, ensuring higher rates of adoption and success. More importantly, it's working to revive our arts, culture, heritage and putting it back into the spotlight. Sonal Mansingh, Rajya Sabha MP and youngest recipient of the Padma Bhushan and the Padma Vibhushan, is with us, and so is Dushyant Sridhar, Vedic speaker and writer. Namaste and Jai Hind. Such a pleasure to see both of you and to be able to speak with you. You've been a champion of culture and art for many decades, Sonal Mansingh ji, and Dushyant Sridhar, young now, but he's going and providing discourses and orienting people, telling people about the richness of our culture and our scriptures the world over. So, Sonal Mansingh ji, I'm going to ask you, culture, virasat bhi, vikas bhi, this message, how best can we use it? And are we using it well?
We have been using it, but now more and more emphasis is being put on it. People's attention is drawn to it. And the motto behind this, as I understand, is art for heart. Because all the talk about sustainable development and bringing cultures together, bringing people closer through culture, is all about hearts. And also about understanding and appreciating each other's heritage, because art and culture, the sustainable element there, the foundation of it is the heritage. And I think India is so lucky to have both tangible and intangible heritage. The plethora of monuments and temples and forts, and you have it all strewn all over India in every corner. The intangible heritage, even more precious, because that has sustained through millennia,
Yes.
even when the tangible heritage sites were destroyed. And intangible heritage is what develops the mind, brings quality to life, enrichment to one's life. The thought, the concepts, the beliefs, the practices, the festivals, the traditions, these are the founding stones, the foundations of any civilizational culture. And all the civilizations perished where the culture began to decay. We are so fortunate to have India, Bharat today, Samriddha Bharat. And this kind of development is very, very timely. I think it is needed in every direction of our cultural heritage, both tangible and intangible.
And reviving these cultural aspects which, like you said, Sonalji, which have thrived over millennia, the weaves and the patterns which are found in the excavations at Lothal and Rakhigarhi are still found at different parts of our country. So how is it over 150 generations, if not more, it's been passed down in the same format, same weaves? How is it possible? Bidri work is so many years old. Hundreds of years old, and it's still there. Dushyant Sridhar, and these mentions are there even in our scriptures, and somewhere these systems were also central to our economic welfare. Dharmic capitalism as a concept was propounded by Kautilya.
Very true, Anand. Namaskaram to you and namaskaram to my fellow panelists and namaskaram to the viewers. As rightly pointed out by the Honorable Prime Minister, it is very important that as we make technological advancements, we had this wonderful launch of the soft landing of the Chandrayaan 3 on the moon. So we have had such great technological achievements, and I'm sure Indians are making big names in MNCs. At the same time, the progress, it should not at any point in time demean the contributions made to our humanities, to arts, architecture by our ancestors and by the artisans of the present. So, contribution to science and maths and appreciation of arts and architecture can happen at the same pace. And that's very important for a civilization such as India. Of course, today, the United States of America is huge in terms of the economy, the USD, the GDP, and everything of that size. But it can't trace a history beyond 400 years from now.
Correct.
And here, any remote village, a priest who has not even had an exposure to any other country will, in a very cool manner, say that this temple is 2,500 years old. So the history that we have, the architecture that we have bequeathed, the art forms that we have, very rightly put, you did mention about the gifts that are being given, Anand. In the 13th century, I remember a very clear verse from Hamsa Sandesham where Vedanta Deshika states, Tadda Kulankamurtau Tanmanjira Pratima Ninade. The border of Sita's sari while she went to the forest had the motif of Hamsa. The patterns that you see of Rani Ki Vav of the 10th century, which is found on our 100 rupee note, is the patola.
Patola.
So all our designs, all our textiles, all our weaves, they are not that modern. They are very ancient. When you spoke about one of the gifts given of the Dhokra art,
Yes.
it is an art which survived even during the Indus Valley civilization time, Anand.
Correct.
We have the dancing idol where we were aware of metallurgy. And there is a place called Aranmula in Kerala where the mirrors are made not with the material that we make mirrors now. They are polished off the metal.
Yeah.
So it's a 2,500-year art. So I feel it is genuinely very, very right for the Honorable Prime Minister to have taken up Varanasi. I think in your opening note,
Yes.
you also mentioned about Kashi. So Kashi, the word Kashi is just not famous in Uttar Pradesh or Bihar. A marriage that is conducted in the southern tip of India, one of
Kashi
the
Yatra.
rituals is called Kashi Yatra. And one of the sweets that we make for the functions is called Kashi Halwa. So Kashi, Tenkashi, Sevakashi. So this Kashi name is very popular across the country. And it was considered as the seat of learning. So anybody across the country would come. Anand, I need not have to say, we had travelers from China. Chinam Shukaihi. We had travelers from China. And we had travelers from the Central Asian countries traveling to India in the last 2,000 years, still about the Vijayanagara Empire. So that speaks about the soft power that we have. And just to make a concluding point from my side, it is just not enough if we possess these. See, possession is not just important. It is about telling the world that we have this. So it's very, very important just to say that why should we make a show out of it? Why will people not know? Yes. There will be 5 or 10% of the world's population which will research by themselves and know about all of this. But there is a huge 90% of the population to which we need to make sure that, this is the civilization we have. This is the culture we have.
Absolutely.
You can feel it for yourself. So that's very important. And I feel the G20 is going to be a wonderful moment. It's a God-given opportunity for Bharata Desham to showcase what all it possesses.
Correct. Very, very well said and beautifully put there. Sonalji, in fact, Kashi is mentioned in the Rigved. So it's one of the oldest cities. So that's also the reason why it should be held there. The other aspect is it doesn't bring it to the spotlight for the world, but even locally. हमारे भारत में ही सब कुछ तो भूल गए हैं. धीरे-धीरे इसको फिर चेरिश करना शुरू करेंगे और other than occasions, every day it should become part of us, our culture, our heritage.
Indeed, the word Kashi means jhalakta hua, shining. And in dance, in Bharatanatyam and other allied forms, we wear Kasi Male. And it is the gold coins and shining. Kashi is supposed to be the oldest living city in the world. And it is said that there's a Gupta Kashi also, which is not known to common people like us, but where yogis and the saints, they reside. Kashi is supposed to be standing on the trident, Trishula, of Bhagwan Shiva Vishwanath. So Kashi has, and of course the Ganga Mai, the river Ganges, Gam Gachati iti Ganga, the lifeline, the water, Jala, Jivan, that flows there. So the several, what shall I say, important points are there. What I wanted to bring you back to Anand, is to the motives that we were talking about. The motives that were found in Mohenjo-Daro, Harappa and the old Rakhi Garhi and see, these motives have survived because they are not just designs. Each has a symbolism of its own. Fish is supposed to be a very auspicious sign even among the Zoroastrians, the Parsis. Fish, Kumbha, the Shikhara, which is the topmost point. And here is the Shikhara also on top of our head, the Brahmarandra. Then there is Rudraksha, there is Hamsa, there is Yali, there is Simha, there is a parrot, Mayura. You name it, and all these motives, the flowers, of course the lotus among all. These are the living symbols of a life, ongoing life, which is a civilizational river of consciousness. And that is why they have survived in every part of India. It's not just in north and south. I've just come back from Guwahati yesterday after a performance for Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, Beti Badhao. And that is also where we are teaching the young children, the young girls, how to decipher signs and symbols, and teaching them handicrafts, teaching them dance. See, let's not forget, of course, artisans are very, very important, but let's not forget the role of performing arts, because this is also ancient tradition, and that is why Shiva is called Nataraja. That is why Devi is called Nateshwari. And without the Swara and Laya, Sur and Tal, there is no life. Your breath itself is Laya. Every sound is a Swara. So these kind of philosophical concepts, when they are exhibited, they are shown and conveyed through various art forms, whether they are through artifacts or through performing arts. They all make a mark, and that is where I think, as Dushyantji said, and you have been saying, and we've all been reiterating again and again what Modi ji has been saying, that this is the time of India showing the path to the world, how beauty, Satyam Shivam Sundaram, this adage comes true, comes alive. That which is truth, is auspicious, is beautiful, and that should be conveyed to all. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is great. I think Satyam Shivam Sundaram is the next step.
Yes, and we're looking forward to that. What an amazing conversation, which I'd love to go on for, but paucity of time. To the lady and the gentleman, always a pleasure to speak with you and to have you on my show. Thank you for making the time. Namaskaram and Jai Hind. Thank you very much. We're going to take a very short break, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, on the one hand, we are celebrating Bharat and its rise. On the other hand, there are blast factories that are developing, mushrooming all over. Do we really need this? Stay with us.
It will have a lot of payloads on it, but the most important part of this mission is that we have a 90 kg payload called the Visible Line Emission Coronagraph that has been created, that has been worked upon by scientists from the Indian Institute of Astrophysics. And they have been working on this payload for about 15 years now. It's a very complex payload and took a lot of hard work from the scientists to integrate all these complex elements into it. So the objective is to basically understand the heating of the sun's outer layer. The viewers must understand that there is a large temperature difference between the core of the sun and the outer layer of the sun, and scientists are really intrigued about it and they really want to understand it. Apart from that, there are certain flares which keep coming out of the sun and have a potential of probably having some impact on the spacecraft which are orbiting in the space. So and we can't really predict them. So scientists are really keen to understand if they can figure out a way to predict these solar flares So all these are different objectives of the entire mission, and finally it is on track, and we'll see the rocket lifting off from Sriharikota on 2nd September.
Let me cut across to my colleague Poonam as well. She's joining us from the newsroom. Poonam also has some updates. Yes, Poonam, please tell us.
Right, this is the tweet that has been put out by ISRO, not only confirming the date and the time of when this launch is going to happen, but also why it's extremely unique. So I just want to quickly take our viewers through that. And this is, like Shrishti was also pointing out, the major objectives, of course, she's outlined for us. But here's what makes Aditya L1 extremely unique. And this is what ISRO has now been putting out. It's the first time that a spatially resolved solar disk is going to be in the near UV band. What we are going to be seeing is that the CME dynamics that are going to be close to the solar disk, thereby providing information in the acceleration regime. It's not something that is usually observed, is what ISRO then goes on to say. They're also talking about why this is unique. It says that the directional and energy antistrophy of the solar wind using multi-direction observations is something that has never been done before, and that is what ISRO aims to do with this particular mission. Remember, right after the success of Chandrayaan 3, the chairman of ISRO, Mr. Somnath, had spoken to us here, and he had told us that this is all on track. It's already at Sriharikota. Just the time and date has to be decided, and that has now been released.
Poonam, with that tweet that ISRO has put out. I want to once again go back to Shrishti, who's with us on the broadcast. Shrishti, to explore the mysteries of the universe, to understand the sun, its orbit, and various things that comprise our universe has been the quest of the modern day scientists. You spoke about the NASA's mission. This is the first of its kind mission for India. What are the expectations that ISRO scientists have?
Definitely a lot of expectations. So we started our journey for interplanetary missions back in 2008 with Chandrayaan 1, when we launched a spacecraft and placed a orbiter there. And 2019 we went to Mars, and then again another attempt at Chandrayaan. So this
Shrishti, I'm very sorry to interrupt you there. Dr. G. Raju, who's the former director of ISRO, is joining us on the broadcast. Dr. Raju, good afternoon. Thank you for speaking with us. Aditya L1, a very ambitious project from ISRO. What are your expectations, and how big of a leap would it be for us?
Yes, see, this Aditya L1 mission is a very important mission for studying the solar storm, solar winds. Solar winds are very crucial for both for communication and emotion, particularly communication. We have not understood much about solar winds. Therefore, we are going to a place called Aditya L1, where L1 means the Lagrange point, from where we can look at the sun without any interruptions or eclipses or anything. So L1 is about 1.5 million kilometers, and we'll have a constant view of the sun. We'll have a constant view of the sun to study the basic activities. To my knowledge, the main focus is on studying the solar wind. Okay, this is one of the important things that's being done by the Aditya L1 mission.
ISRO's Aditya mission on the September 2nd. The launch of Aditya L1, the first Indian space-based Indian observatory to study the sun, is scheduled for the 2nd of September 2023 at 11:50 a.m. from Sriharikota. It will be the first space-based Indian mission to study the sun. The spacecraft shall be placed in a halo orbit around the Lagrange point L1 of the Sun-Earth system. The information that I'm giving you is from the website of the Indian Space Research Organization. And a satellite placed in the halo or orbit around the L1 point has the major advantage of continuously viewing the sun without any occultation or any kind of eclipses. This will provide a greater advantage observing the solar activities and its effect on space, whether in real time. My colleague Ritu with us on the broadcast to give us more details. Ritu, tell us about this mission.
Well, so after moon, it is the time for the sun for ISRO, in fact. So now what we are seeing that the ISRO has tweeted this, making it very official about the launch of the Aditya L1, and also confirming the date as well. Because remember, the ISRO earlier had told that it would be in the first week of the September, but now the ISRO says that the launch will be on the 2nd September. In fact, now the Aditya L1 is the mission. In fact, it's the first mission of the ISRO to study the sun. So the satellite shall be placed in the halo orbit around the Lagrange point one is what we are given to understand of the Sun-Earth system. In fact, see, this is very interesting even more because
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. No lessons learned in the state of Bengal months after a factory blast in Agra that killed 11. Another factory explosion took place in Bengal. 9 people have lost their lives after a blast took place in an illegal factory in the North 24 Parganas. Only one person has been arrested so far as glaring lapses come to the fore. Angry locals are blaming the cops for turning a blind eye. The blast has sparked another face-off between the BJP and the Trinamool, while the BJP hinting at a conspiracy has demanded an NIA probe. The Trinamool hitting back at the BJP, saying that the BJP should stop doing its vulture politics. Is it a state oversight that is supposed to be blamed? Is the state complicit in these blasts? Because there are claims being made that several of these factories, these illegal factories, are connected with leaders of the Trinamool, and that's what's forcing the cops to turn a blind eye to it. That's the allegation. Shatrupa, spokesperson of the West Bengal BJP, is with us. We should have Tausif Ahmed, political analyst leaning towards the Trinamool, joining us. Shatrupa ji, namaste. Namaste, Tausif, namaste. Now, the BJP's allegation is that this is a conspiracy. Why is it a conspiracy? Illegal bomb factories could be oversight or perhaps failure of the law and enforcement system. But why conspiracy, Shatrupa ji?
We are directly blaming the Trinamool because Trinamool government chooses to turn a blind eye, and they keep saying that today the Honorable Chief Minister made a huge ruckus about the inefficiency of police, completely overlooking the fact, very conveniently of course, overlooking the fact that the police are petrified of her and her whims and fancies. She, does this as a serial, like we watch the national serials on various channels. She does this on a very serial note. Why? Because this is a regular basis which happens. There will be bombs found. There will be firearms found, and then the police will say, "Oh, we didn't know anything about it." Then after some time, most often than not, the Chief Minister reacts and says, "Well, what was the police doing?" The point is, the police are, like you very rightly said, the police are forced to turn a blind eye, either because they are fed underhand or they are having to hide under files. Several occasions, Anand, during the Panchayat elections, you may have seen that the police are very, very categorically denying any kind of violence which is happening. If there are, I remember one very particular incident, a bomb exploding right on camera. I mean, we saw it, everybody saw it on camera. And the police said, "Wait, let me go and see what has happened, whether it is at all a bomb explosion or whether it is a recorded explosion sound." I mean, this is how bizarre police in West Bengal is. Police in West Bengal, DIG has very categorically said there has been no violence. Can you see any violence? I can't see. The camera also should not see. This is what the police keep saying. That is why we keep saying this is a particular incident that has happened, humongous explosion. There are not 2.5 crackers which went off. You just see, I mean, before we came online, you were showing on your channel the incredible loss of lives and bodies scattered all over, concrete broken. So what kind of a huge bomb explosion it must have been? Local bystanders are saying it was a bomb factory. So how come the local Vidhayak has no idea of what is happening? Apparently the local people have even gone and complained to the police. Police are still denying. No, we don't even know what happened. The governor went yesterday, I think, and the police went and said with the governor, the police went inside the premises and said, "No, there are no bombs. There are only onions and potatoes here." I mean, how bizarre can the police get? That is why our Honorable State President has written to the Honorable Minister of Home that we need an NIA inquiry, because there are rampant infiltrators coming in. In fact, one of those.
No, but see, I'll tell you what. When you're making these allegations, Tausif, please respond. But one of the biggest concerns that arise is that isn't the Home Minister of the state also the Chief Minister? Why will any Chief Minister, any Home Minister of any state want these bomb factories operating on his or her soil? It's a straightforward question. Tausif, please answer the BJP's charges and then my question. Yes, please.
No, Anand, there is no scope for anybody to play politics over this incident. It's a sad incident. People have lost their lives, and these are not bomb factories. I heard sometimes the BJP spokesperson was calling it firecracker factories, illegal firecracker factories, and then sometimes calling it bomb factories. You see, it is everything is on record. The chief minister, or as a home minister, however, like you would like to address to her, had set up a committee headed by the chief secretary, and there was a plan that the two trading hubs will be set up in South Chobis Pargana and in Kolaghat in East Midnapur to facilitate the distribution of the green fireworks. Now, there is entire regulation is set up. There are guidelines on the what conditions license would be issued, and there is, in a way, the government has to work to promote the small and micro and macro business units. This is also the scheme of the state government to promote small business units. So yes, this is one of incident where the investigation is going on, and so far it is seen that this was illegal firecracker factory. And why these are present is that because the labor who are working in these areas, this is very close to their house, basically a residential unit, and these units should be separate in a trade hub away from the population to ensure safety and regulation. So all reasonable steps have been taken by the state administration where these kind of incidents happen. It goes under thorough investigation, and it actually serves no purpose. In fact, the opposition appears foolish if they try to claim, they try to exaggerate, calling it a bomb factory. Say whatever it is. It is no doubt a firecracker factory, and it was illegally operating.
Yeah, but
the
my
government
point
has taken action against it.
Have they really taken action? Because after the Ezra blast, correct me if I'm wrong, there was supposed to be an inquiry and a report to be submitted in 3 months by the Chief Secretary. It's more than 3 months. That report has not been submitted. So, does the Home Minister really have control over all these proceedings? And it's happening constituency after constituency and in a particular region, which is also raising huge concerns. But Shotarupa ji, he has said that this is not a bomb blast. You either decide it's a firecracker factory which blasted, or it's actually a bomb factory. What is it?
No, Anand, one thing has to be very clear. It's not that we are saying that it's a firecracker or a bomb factory. It is the local bystanders who are saying that it is a bomb factory for years together. It's not that it's suddenly mushroomed. It is being a factory for a very, very long time, and the local people have been complaining to the police. It is not that the BJP are doing vulture politics. We are compelled to point out to the people of West Bengal again, because the media is showing it over and over again. It is very clearly shown that this has been happening not overnight. And if you remember, one of those people have been saying that there is a person who has been the prime accused. She's been saying that, I think it is her husband that she's talking about, that this person is an ISF activist, and therefore has come through Murshidabad and crossed the border. That is why we are constantly saying that Bengal, unfortunately, you left with a beautiful parting statement before the break that when India is showcasing India everywhere in the G20, West Bengal remains a bomb haven, a safe haven for these kind of terrorists, and this is what we are called.
No, the point is India should be a place for illegals. Any and every person living in Bengal who's a legal citizen of this country deserves a share in the growth. They don't deserve these kind of factories. If there is a growing number of illegals and these illegal factories, Tausif, there is a concern. How soon is it going to be addressed? I have the final 45 seconds to you, Tausif. Yes.
As I said earlier, two trading hubs have been set up in South Chobis Pargana in Champahati and in East Midnapur in Kolaghat, just to ensure that these kind of factories can be taken out of the population. Now, as I said, again, the BJP is trying to bring politics over here by talking about, repeatedly talking about cross borders, talking about terrorism, talking about bombs. What is all this nonsense? I am inviting you to speak the truth. I say that yes, government has a mechanism to deal with this kind of illegal factories for the safety of the.
Well, I've got to wind up with the
Bengal.
note that repeatedly these instances have happened over 11 and a half plus years of Mamata Banerjee's rule, and nothing's been done about it. And these factories are doing nothing green about crackers. That's very clear. Thank you very much to our panelists. Winding up the right stand, over to Zaka for brass tacks.
Good evening, this is Brass Tacks. I'm Zaka Jacob. The Indian men's 4x400 relay team did all of this nation proud by finishing second in the final qualifiers ahead of the finals. They broke an Asian record in the process, and at one point they were even briefly ahead of the champion USA team. Now, while this is a matter that should make all of us proud, regardless of where we come from or what our religion is or what our political affiliations are, unfortunately, and this is the reality of where we